So in answer to the question about the financials, the Meadowlark Festival, the revenues for 2020, well, this is their budget, but call it about $100,000 to produce the festival. And just respecting the conversation that I had earlier about the return on your investment, the events they held last year, they held 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They held 8 events, which they estimated were about $700 in expenses each.
In Summerland?
Yeah. So Wings on Their Fingers was Bats of the South Okanagan, an event at Sunoka Park. After the Fire was Wild Horse Mountain. Garnet Valley was Ecosystems Management, Birding and Botanizing. Trout Creek Ecological Reserve, Spineless Critters that Rock Our World, an introductory birding workshop in Sunoka Park, Millionaire's Row, a historical tour of Prairie Valley, and the Fur Brigade Trail over 200 years. So 7 events worth about $700 each. So that's what they did. Their proposed budget is about $100,000 in expenses, and about 35 of that is labor and materials.
Do you have another question now that we've got that information?
Yeah.
Please.
Have you finished?
Well, I'm just looking at their overall statement of operations. It's about 100 in and out.
Okay, just so, I would say that the 5,000 that the RDOS contributes, we contribute, I don't know, 10% of that, maybe. So, and we're getting far more than that spent in our community, so I don't have a problem with the $1,000 request for the Meadowlark. You know, we're getting more than that back.
Okay, so we have $1,000 and $500 and wow, and 0. So may I make the suggestion that we go in the middle there at 500? Councillor Carlson.
Just wondering, I like to look at the websites. They've got a lovely website, but I'm wondering if there's a certain amount you have to sponsor them to get your logo on their website. We can make sure that if we give them money that we get on there this year. We gave them money last year, yes?
We actually, in our grant and aid agreements and the letters that we send out, we do specify that we should be getting acknowledgement, but the challenge to actually following up and tracking that is great. So we will later often say, hey, our logo's not on that.
If we could follow up for this year.
That's a really good observation.
None of them are Summerland.
Okay, so we're at 500 for that one.
Okay.
For now.
For now. I'm sure most of you are familiar with RECOPE as an organization. They're certainly, I'd say, almost a victim of their own success in that they have a huge need that they address through people who are using the services for rehabilitation after injuries or after surgeries. RECOPE is in the process right now of trying to both lobby Interior Health for a higher portion to be paid to their physiotherapists, because they're working from an old agreement which is essentially not paying market rates. So RECOPE is on the one hand working with Interior Health. RECOPE does receive grant funding from the Hospital Auxiliary, which is essentially what helps them pay to rent our pool. So they pay for the use of the aquatic center Monday, Wednesday, Fridays. And they work very hard to try and keep their service attainable to a large cross-section of the community, realizing that if they raise their rates too much, it may become a barrier to use. So RECOPE is also, like the Summerland Food Bank and Resource Society, they are in the process of trying to become a social enterprise, which means looking at their bottom lines and figuring out how to become more sustainable. So they've received money in the past from Community Foundation to try and get some of their admin tasks underway so that they can kind of do more of the business planning. And they too are looking at working on investment readiness projects so that they could potentially gain access to that funding.
Angelique, do you know where else in the interior health region that the RECOPE program exists?
To the best of my knowledge, there is nothing else like this.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
That is correct, yeah. Honestly, it is a program that needs to be scaled and replicated. What we have happening there is so important for social well-being and for people's healing. The kinds of comments I hear people making about their experience in RECOPE are like life-changing aha moments where people get something out of the camaraderie of being with others also on the path to recovery. And so it's providing much more than just physiotherapy. It's an enormous benefit to our community, but it also, as I said, it's a victim of its own success. It's still operating. It's operating like you took a VW and decided to haul a trailer, so you modified it and you added a bigger engine, but you still didn't change the tires to match. So, you know, it could use a redo. I mean, no offense.
We're in the process.
I know, and that's why I'm saying this openly, because I know they're really working on it, and it needs to happen, and it's challenging, it's in flux, transition.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Holmes?
Yeah, two questions, I guess. So first, could you tell me how much they pay for pool rental? And secondly, so if they're in this transition period, then their request is seen as something to tie them over during that transition period, as opposed to something that will be an ongoing thing every year?
But the total cost, yeah, it's just once. So per use, it's $592. I feel like the number's $30,000, but let me just have a look. Do you know?
Okay. Our annual pool rental is $7,000. And hopefully it's just, it's not going to be an annual thing over and over again. I guess one of the biggest part of the ask is that we're trying to get enough revenue coming in so that we can pay fair and equitable wages. For example, our fitness instructors, we pay $24 an hour. The same fitness instructors work the hour later for the city and get paid $29. So it's very difficult for us to hold staff to make our pool accessible to our most vulnerable people. So it's an ongoing challenge that way. We are working on social enterprise with various programs through the Community Foundation and trying to get that up to speed, looking at our business model and those kinds of things. But it would be incredibly beneficial for us to get some tide-over money while we're going through that process. Just the demographics have changed. They're going to continue to go that way. The demand for the program has gone up and up and up. And our fundraising capability, there's only still so much money in the pot out there. So our revenue isn't keeping pace with inflation for people's wages, nor for the increase in demand for the service. That's pretty kind of where we're at.
To give you a sense of how many people use RECOPE, they average 650 visits a month. That's a month.
1,100 client hours a year.
1,100?
Sorry, 11,000.
11,000.
Hours a year.
Councillor Holmes, does that answer your
Yeah,
question?
thanks.
Okay. Any other questions? Councillor Van Alphen?
Yeah, this is a difficult one. Like, I attend the pool or the fitness facility Monday, Wednesdays, Fridays, and I see what's going on in the pool. And I agree, the demographics are just going to keep going that way. Just have to look around the table, look on the other side of the table. But if we decide to put this number in, I think what we also need to be doing is to assist RECOPE with writing letters or, helping them, with letter support, possibly to Interior Health, whoever it may be, I'd like to say, this is a one-off situation in Summerland, that we have this wonderful program here to assist our seniors, and, you know, everybody else is supporting it, like our thrift shop and council and whoever else, and fundraising, and, you know, they need assistance also. Maybe a letter of support would help them to achieve some assistance, so they're more self-sustaining. So I would recommend we put it in.
At the 5,000 request, okay.
Yeah, sure, I'll throw the number in.
Councillor Trainer and then Councillor Carlson.
I would support putting in 5,000 for now too. And I think, you know, letting Interior Health know how much money RECOPE actually saves them by, you know, getting people into the program instead of having to go into the hospital when they fall and break a hip or something, you know, like this is the program that keeps people out of the hospital. So it probably saves Interior Health like thousands and thousands of dollars. So that's what they need to know.
Ultimately, it's us.
But I would support 5,000.
Councillor Carlson.
Yeah, I think I'm supportive of that too. One of the things that we've been talking about a lot in the last few months is the need for a new aquatic facility and a health and wellness center, and a huge part of that is because of the need and the demand that there is. Basically at 10 o'clock on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday morning, you don't want to be in that parking lot because you're going to be stuck there for 10 minutes trying to get out with your toddlers. And so I think that seeing the actual response and the desire to have a facility in Summerland is really key, and it could be crucial in this next step that the district is taking as we try to build a new facility that hopefully will be a little bit more hopefully that could be self-sustaining, or at least understood differently and perhaps financed differently, so that we don't lose this program and we can only see it being enhanced when we have a new aquatic center. Perhaps with 2 pools, so one's nice and warm and one is the right temperature for swimming laps.
Councillor Patton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I too would support the $5,000. With Julie having her clinic right across from the pool, she has nothing but good things to say about this program. So I would be really amiss if I did not toot the horn of how well it's doing, even though I do not know, but my wife sure does. So.
Well, I've certainly heard anecdotally from people in the community what an amazing program that is. So are we in agreement then to leave it at the 5,000 for our first go through? Okay, great. On to Summerland Action Festival Association.
So to clarify and answer the earlier question from Councillor Holmes, the Action Fest request is not instead of the other in-kind contributions that we give. It's in addition.
Hello.
And I'm just gonna dig up the phone number. Just for your reference, sorry, I've got to get through all these emails. So Action Fest, one thing that they found with the event last year is they lost money on the event that was held in the arena. And they've undertaken some close looks at what they've done in the past, because like many of our organizations, they are doing what they've done because they've done it this way for 30 years. So in a way, they tried something new. They tried, rather than having a dance, to have a performance, and it didn't sell well, so they lost money on that event. And that's part of why this request is coming forward, because they're not as strong financially as they were in the past. But just to go back to the numbers, the festival does receive in costs from the support that the district does. In 2019, it was almost $13,000. It was $12,925. And in 2018, it was $10,606. Now, I don't think that we suddenly increased our support at the district level by almost $3,000. I think what's happened is we're just getting better at tracking. So when you see a big jump like that, it's not fair to think it suddenly cost $3,000 more in 2019. It's just that things are getting better sorted. But all that said, Summerland Action Festival is a huge contributor to the community. It definitely is an event that people look forward to. And the Action Fest, by having the failure of the event at the arena, has looked at some of their expectations, and they're considering this year having their big event not at the arena. So, one, not needing to have the same ticket sales, not needing to have the same prices, not needing to be spread out that far. And so they are themselves looking at ways that they can reduce their costs, and I think that's a positive thing for how the festival will be functioning going forward.
Councillor Holmes.
So the $2,200 rental fee waiver request, what specifically is that for? What do they want waived?
So that is when they were planning on using the arena. So remember, most of these applications are written in October. Here we are in February, January. Things change as people have their meetings, and they kind of they debrief after the event. They smart from what didn't happen. They look at their revenues.
Oh, okay, and just to follow, so, but then
They haven't updated.
the rental arena, the arena rental last year, that would have come out of the community events cost center budget, no?
So the way they've written their grant and aid application, they ask for $5,000 and $2,208 for the use of the facility. So when we come to quantify it, we just add it together. The Action Festival is a hard one for us to split apart because, as I say, there are some things that have been taken for granted and done a certain way that it's pretty tough for us to suddenly start invoicing when they haven't previously. Lauren Mullen sits on that committee, and she's been working with them to bring them up into our new standards, but it takes time. So this application, getting an application from them, it's all new.
Can I follow up? But I'm still confused though, but they rented the arena last year.
Yep.
And that
So
would have
they've-
come out of the community events budget.
It probably wasn't accounted for.
It wasn't
No.
accounted for.
The recreation budget is a different line item. When we talk about the community events budget, we're talking about works, doing things like installing banners. It's not a facility rental cost. So Action Fest does raise money from sponsors. They have a massive amount of sponsors from throughout the community, and they do also have a number of organizations that help to put it on, who also use it as a fundraising activity, as identified by Councillor Barkwell. They have a budget of somewhere between $60,000 and $80,000 in and out, and they don't really carry money. So it's literally like they blitz the community and they start raising money for who's going to be their gold, platinum, and silver sponsor. And it's an event which, because it's been run this way for a long time, has a number of people on the board that are kind of tired, and it's not their only thing. So it's one of Summerland's marquee events. Staff are working to try and help them identify the opportunities, and the Chamber has approached Action Fest to ask if they would like any help. They're still not necessarily a strong support for that. So we're working to try and further develop the opportunities with the Action Festival. But they are running a shortfall, which is why they've asked for grant and aid.
Councillor Barkle?
Did you sort of, Councillor said that they spend what they make, they don't have did they have a balance sheet with their financial submission?
They did not, and I called Pat Bell to talk to him about their financials in general, and we had a frank conversation just about how it works, and essentially their budget varies year to year from anywhere from $60,000 to $80,000, and they spend it. So they work to get sponsors from throughout the community, which, if you look at their catalog, it's sizable. They have everyone from Musters to Timberland to the Waterfront, Son of M, Castanet, GAZs, Peacocks, everyone. So they have diamond sponsors, gold sponsors, platinum sponsors, silver sponsors, bronze sponsors, copper sponsors. And they have a fireworks sponsor and a main stage sponsor. So they get a lot of support from throughout the community to put it on.
Councillor Barkle?
Are they like a registered society?
They are, yep.
And so
They have a society number.
They would have had to produce the financial statements for being a society, but they didn't give you the balance sheet?
Yeah.
I have a little bit of trouble with that. If the financial statements are available, they should have been submitted.
As I said, we're working on trying to, it's an organization that's been around for a long time and is pretty used to doing things in one way. It's kind of hard to...
Councillor Holmes?
I think Action Fest is kind of too important of an event for this community for us to kind of sort out here now in a grant and aids request session. I think we need to. I think we really need to look at it. I think we need to. I think we need a staff report on Action Fest, and I think we need to work out some things, much like how we had to work out some things with the chamber and Light Up a couple of years ago. I think we need to really. I think it's a bigger issue than what we're being presented with and trying to being asked to make a decision on right now. I don't know. Maybe that's a question for the CAO, but.
Yeah, through the chair, if we have some direction from council to develop a report on the event itself and work with the event provider and get as much information as possible, it'd be good to get some direction from council on what specifically you'd want in that report, just an overview of the entire event, the costs attached to it, just so that we can make sure we bring the appropriate information to council.
Yeah, I would, it's not clear to me, and it hasn't been clear for the last 5 years that I've been on council, what is the district's role in the event? What is our level of commitment to the event? I think most people in this community see it as a district event. And I think we need to, much like Light Up in a way, and I think we really need to work with the committee the way we worked with the chamber to make sure we're all on the right track. And I'm not so sure that it is right now. So.
Councillor Traynor?
I would agree with that as well, especially because the district hosts the Giants Head Run. It used to be the triathlon, but now it's the 5K and 10K run. And when I was at the credit union, we used to give the donation to the district to run that portion of Action Fest, like the run, and then we would also give a donation to Action Fest itself. So it would be interesting to know kind of how the whole thing works together. I think that would help us in our decision.
So then, Sia, what would you suggest in terms of the amount, like, do we leave
So I think,
placeholder?
like, this item needs to be dealt with over the next couple of weeks as part of this budget process. The report on the event itself could take a little bit to get together for council, so I think you'd need to consider this item this evening as part of the whole grant process. But I think we've got, if there is direction from council to bring back a report, resolution recommending that would be helpful.
Can you make note of that? Yes. Okay, thank you. So, right now it's sitting at 72, with possibly 22 of that for the rental fee of the arena, which may not be used anyways. Is there anyone, Councillor Holmes?
Well, I guess I'd be comfortable with giving the 2,200 for the arena, if that's what they need, because we gave that last year anyway, even if it wasn't accounted for. I'm not so sure on approving $5,000 cash until we have this discussion with them that we were just talking about.
Okay. Councillor Patton?
I agree wholly with Councillor Holmes.
Okay. Councillor Barkbowl?
Yeah.
Yeah. Councillor Van Alphen?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As part of the staff report, could we get a set of financials, profit and loss statement or whatever?
Yep.
Thanks.
Okay, so we're at 2,200 for that one. Or 2,208 or whatever. Okay, Okanagan Boys and Girls Club.
So council will remember that the Boys and Girls Club has come in front of council a few times to describe their intention to try and fill the gap, which has occurred with the closure of Sadie. The closure of Sadie has meant that the standing grant allocation of $55,000 was reduced. Sorry, it was $55,500, and $5,000 of that has been moved over to this grant and aid line item. So the Boys and Girls Club has been in contact both with staff here and also with the Recreation Drop-In Center, looking at potential spaces to run the program. And they have requests out to the RDOS. And where else? Let's see. Their intention is to, although Boys and Girls Club tends to be for younger kids, their intent is to use the model of other programs they deliver throughout the region and bring it here, which is essentially working with young people and, much like Sadie, working to develop their assets and strengths to build strong characters. So they have, as their projected revenues, they do have an RDOS grant that they applied for, which was unconfirmed at the time of this application. You may know how that's gone. The $5,000 they've asked for from us, some general fundraising, which is unconfirmed, but essentially they have a list of about $30,000 of unconfirmed revenues and expenses, which would be primarily around wages and benefits, and utilities, some program services and supplies, working out to about $30,000.
Councillor Carlson?
And do they have a, number one, a timeline of when they would offer such a service, and number two, a plan for what if they don't get $5,000 and the other thousands of dollars they're asking for?
No timeline that I'm aware of, but I do know that Jennifer is in the audience, so if you'd like to ask, you could.
Oh, yeah, she's here.
Hi there, I'm Jennifer Anderson, the Regional Director here in the staff. We are getting the Regional Director grant and aid, or Regional RDOS grant and aid that we asked for $20,000. We've now just submitted a TELUS grant for $20,000 to try to replace that. We are hoping for spring. We're trying to as soon as we get some confirmed funding, then we're ready to move ahead. So I've just met with Tom from Sadie tonight before this meeting and just talking about furniture and items that they're going to be donating that we can use for our program. And we're just going to continue to find some funding and start in the spring.
Thank you.
Councillor Van Elfen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So with your conversation with Tom tonight, are other assets going to be transferred over, such as like the van?
Yeah, he's put a price on the van, so we're going to negotiate to purchase the van.
Thank you.
And so with the other community RDOS grant and aids, we're going to then look to apply for those as well on the community level versus the regional.
Councillor Holmes.
Yeah, I was just going to speak to the RDWS application. It was for a regional-wide application, and if I recall at the time when we discussed it, it wasn't approved because the thinking is that most of it was actually for Summerland, and smaller amounts, I guess, for other municipalities. And the thinking was that they should apply directly to the municipalities that would benefit from it rather than the region as a whole.
Councillor Carlson.
Just wondering if there's other Sadie assets that, other than a few pieces of furniture, that might, like, do they have outstanding debts or something that? It just seems like perhaps there's more to the story than that, but, well,
I think those are details that are between the Sadie and the Boys and Girls Club.
when the district had a standing 5,000 that we gave to Sadie every year, would, my understanding is that has been transferred into this pot, right?
Into this grant,
Into this conversation. And so if we were to allocate $5,000, but it's not enough to run a program at the Boys and Girls Club, do we hold on to that $5,000, or does it go to the Boys and Girls Club regardless of if they run this program? Sorry, does that make sense?
Nope.
If we give $5,000 and a program for the teenagers isn't actually come to fruition into 2020, do we still give the $5,000 to the Boys and Girls Club, or is it specific to that ask?
This ask is related to creating a program here in Summerland.
So if it doesn't happen because they can't fund it properly, then we won't be giving them money.
Typically what happens, if we receive a grant and we're not able to deliver the services that we promised, then we would return them.
Okay, thank you. Then I would,
fall fair did.
I'm happy to put the $5,000 there. I think that is fair, and I think there's a need for it in our community.
Okay, agreement? Oh, Councillor Barkwell.
I'm not sure yet. I wonder if Councillor Carlson could explain how she differentiates between, say, the supporting the Boy Scouts activities for $5,000 and the Boys and Girls Club for $5,000. I mean, we're not contributing to the Boy Scouts.
No, that's a good point. I think that it's something that doesn't even, we're talking about creating something that doesn't exist. Right? Right now, there's nothing for the youth that might want to participate, and my understanding is without funding coming from somewhere, nothing is going to exist. So if we lose an asset that's been around since, I remember being on the board of Sadie with some friends when the original clubhouse was created, coming up with the name of it and all of those things, and it was a unique, special thing, and to not have that anymore and someone's offered to fill that gap, I think similar to other things that we're helping get off the ground, it should get some startup support. Whether it's in perpetuity or not, I don't know, but, you know, we're gonna fund things that exist, and have existed since 1972. It maybe is worth funding something that needs a little boost.
Councillor Van Elfen and then Holmes.
Well, how much money did we put aside for Sadie every year?
$5,000.
So, you know, it's the same idea.
I understand where Councillor Barkel's coming from, and, but if this is, so maybe we get some clarification. Is this for, to start up the program, or is it expected to, that the funding would be required year after year? If it's to start up, I think that's a fair request. So.
I think if it's year over year, it'll become one of those, go back to like it was with Sadie. We can have that conversation.
So, speaking to the grant application itself, the various revenue sources in this startup program, but I would imagine the revenue sources would continue to be similar. Donations, 1,000 are unconfirmed. The RDOS grant, 20,000 unconfirmed. The Summerland District grant, 5,000 unconfirmed. Program fees, they have a line for it, so it looks like there would not be program fees. General fundraising, 2,000 of unconfirmed. Memberships, looks like there would not be a charge, and then other grants. And as you can see on the Excel spreadsheet, the other grants being applied for include TELUS, RBC, Community Foundation. So most of the activities of the Boys and Girls Club as they relate to the program that would be being offered here would be funded through grants and fundraising. Which I think is kind of how Sadie ran as well. As I understand, one of the largest fundraisers was the event that Zia's would put on.
Yes. Okay. Council? Nods? Nods on this side? Okay, we'll leave it in for now. At the 5,000. Councillor Trainer.
I think that this is an opportunity for, I mean, Sadie did a great job, but I think this is an opportunity for a new group to come in and try something new. And I would assume that if it didn't work, that they would change it. And then we would have the opportunity to review it next year. And if it does work, then that's really great. And then we can continue also to fund it in the future. But I think it's neat that we have a new group coming in that wants to help the young people in Summerland, and hopefully they'll see some success and people will join.
Great. Okay, on to our last one.
So the last one is a small request from the Canadian Legion for the Canada Day picnic, and it is for $550. And it is for the picnic.
I just have a question. The 2019 request was, we awarded 500, but it doesn't show anything for the request. Was probably 500 or?
I can dig it up. Sorry, what year do you want to know about?
Last year, 2019 request.
Okay.
Councillor Holmes.
I'll say 500, and then we've got an even 60, so we just have to get rid of 10,000.
Oh,
Easy.
no. Councillor Barkwell.
Yeah, I'll go along with the 500, and would note that it's a pretty popular event, and this is only a third of what the event costs, according to the notes there, and, yeah, large column.
Okay, good.
Okay, now it comes.
Maybe.
So could you pop in 500, you said? 500 for that, please, David? Okay,
So you're about 10,000 high.
yep. This is the hard part. Could you use your wizardry and apply a formula of some percentage off of every single one?
So like reduce everyone by
By a
15%?
by the same percentage? I don't know if that's, does that work for the rest of council? Or do you want to go through as we did again
12%.
and have a look?
2 seconds.
Okay.
I'm just gonna drag this down so I can see it on there.
Okay.
He gave out 56. And the budget was.
No, that was a request.
Oh, that.
We gave out 41.
Oh, right, yes.
So it should be. Councillor Holmes.
We might not want to do it that way. We might
No,
want
that's-
to, we might want to, you know,
That's why
some
I'm
might be
throwing out this
greater
other
priorities than
option.
others, and we might find some big chunks of, that we could take off some, and then maybe look at that approach.
Okay, so should we go through line by line, as I said a second ago? As we did before? We'll go through it again for the second go-round? Never mind that, David.
Oh, he's got it down, like he just did it, actually. It's pretty good.
I'll show you what this looks like,
Okay.
and then you can tell me to not do it.
Yeah, at least let him finish.
Fair enough.
I think just to speak to the, swirling conversation in the air, when you apply a set formula to everyone, when you've got such a range of asks, you're kind of penalizing those that haven't asked you very much more than you're penalizing those who've asked for higher numbers, because it will probably hit harder.
So what I've done here, Madam Mayor, is I've basically taken a general percentage. I use 5%. The number can change. If we use 10, it would change all the numbers. But as Angelique noted, it does skew the results if you're just basing it on a strict percentage
Yes,
through the work.
Yeah.
But with the 10% decrease to each ask, the overall, we would still be at $54,000, so 4,000 is still too high, but that's how that works.
Okay. Could you leave that there, and then maybe we'll go through for our second round? But council will use the numbers that we've already cut down to. Councillor Barkle?
Yeah, okay. I just wanted to, I have this question in my mind every year. We've got a total here of from a lot of individually, carefully considered decisions based on facts and information, to come up with a total that we're trying to agree with a completely arbitrary number of $50,000. It would seem the more sensible and considered number is the total that we have, rather than the arbitrary $50,000, which was kind of, maybe has some historical, value, but was more or less pulled from the air. What would be the difficulty to the Director of Finance to increase that $50,000?
That's a
0.1%?
decision of council. It's our decision.
Yeah, I know, but I mean the
Yeah.
difficulty administratively, yeah.
David?
So I can maybe give some history on this, and granted, I have not been here that long. I've only been here 3 years, but during my first couple of years as the director here, the grant and aid budget had been set at, I think it was $35,000. And in every given year, requests would come in substantially higher. I remember one year there was about $120,000 worth of asks and a $30,500 budget. At that point in time, I think it was 2017, council did increase the allocation from the $35,000 to the $45,000. So there's no policy per se as to what that number should be. It's council's comfort with the amount of funding that you want to give out to the community. To increase that number, we could do it one of two ways. If it was council's desire, we could increase the number and try to find offsetting decreases in operational costs. We have just gone through the budget, so council has seen all those. Or alternatively, you could increase that number and potentially increase a revenue source, either being taxation or user fees or some other source of funding to cover that. Those would really be the two options.
Councillor Holmes? No? Still thinking. Councillor Traynor?
I don't think that we should touch the operations. That's already been done. This is really hard, but you have to draw the line somewhere. I mean, at the end of the day, we're all paying for this, and so if we set it at 50,000, I think we need to stick to something around there, because otherwise we have to get it from somewhere else. Either through raising taxes, which we're already proposing to do. So I would be in favor of trying to stick to around 50,000. And just going through this and making some cuts.
I'm with you. Okay, starting at the top, Summerland Minor Hockey. Leave it 500. Rodeo Grounds Equine Development Committee. We're at 1,500 now. 1,000?
1,000.
I think as you look down the list and you realize you have to remove $10,000 from it, just keep that in mind as you're looking at the numbers.
Okay,
I'm good with 1,000.
so we're down to 1,000 for the equine people. Food Bank and Resource Center. Councillor Van Elfen?
Just leave that one for now.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too.
Leave that one.
Leave that one?
Yep.
Okay, let's leave that one for now. Acre Lake Society,
500.
down to 500.
I think we should leave it.
They've already been they're already hacked, so I would
Yeah.
say skip them for now and cut others.
See how we
If we
can,
have to.
okay, so we've got 9,500 to go.
3,000
Down to 3,000?
be my suggestion.
Yeah? Royalty Committee, or Ambassador Program?
1,000.
Okay. 1,000. Riga Festival, that's a decision that we made last year, so that one can't be changed. Fall Fair Society, 7,000, did you say, Councillor Carlson?
I think that, yeah.
Still a little bit more than last year, right? 7,000?
Yep.
Okay. Bluegrass Society, we kind of think we need to leave that one.
Yep.
Ornamental Gardens, yeah, that's it.
They used to ask for 10 and we only ever given them 8, so it's hard to. And now budget for 8, I think.
Leave that one.
Leave that one for now, okay?
Just take that
Bring
off.
that down to 0,
Yeah.
Take it out for now.
yeah? Reco. We're never gonna make it. Well, we'll go, keep going until we do. Thoughts on Reco? Counselor Trainer?
This is really hard, but 4 and then 4 down for Okanagan Boys and Girls Club, because those are 2 new asks for the same amount of money. So if we reduce them both by the same amount, at least that's somewhat,
4 and 4?
yeah.
Other counselors, good? Okay, 4 and 4. Thank you. Action Fest, we've already cut quite a bit. Okay, so, well, we're halfway done.
So we're at, sorry,
We're at 54.7.
so we're absolutely locked in with the Riga?
Well, this council passed a resolution last year. Do you remember when it was? What
I
time of year it
can
was?
find it for you. I think it was October or November, and it was because of a grant they were applying for, that they
Yeah, so
needed to
it
be able
was-
to indicate what the district level of support was.
Their percentage required for the grant. Councillor Holmes?
Yeah, I guess the problem I have with some of these, such as the Riga Festival, it is basically just money out of our pockets into their pockets, back into our pockets, because it's just all for use of center stage, use of facilities, and a lot of these, are the same thing. Not all grant and aids are equal in that sense, because some of the money's coming back to us and some of the money isn't. And I don't know how you divide that out, but at this point, I'm kind of thinking along the lines of Councillor Barkwall said earlier there. I think let's just find another 5,000 somewhere, because otherwise nobody's going to be happy with.
And to answer the question of when the confirmation of support was, it was October of 2019.
Thank you, Angelique. Councillor Van Elfen?
Was it not indicated earlier that there was a pot of money that we had for facility rentals for forgiveness? Do we not?
No,
It's
Community
more
Events
in-
Cost Center.
Community
It's
events
not
putting
cost
stuff
center?
on.
It's not for that, though, I think we,
You don't,
It's employee time.
employee time, not
it's in
facilities?
kind.
Yeah, we use that specifically for employees to track their time, and there are a few materials that sometimes need to be purchased that also get coded to those GL accounts, but it's primarily, I would say 95% staff time.
Were we over budget in that account last year?
Yes.
Thank you.
And I think it's also important to note that for a lot of the, when events are being coded to, there are times when staff are coding to an event for an activity that they would be doing anyway, but because it's for that event. So as an example, we mow the lawns all summer long, but if the lawns are being mowed in particular for an event to happen, they might change their schedule a bit, and then they'll allocate it to that event. So sometimes it's not even an extraordinary cost, it's just that it's really clearly identified as being related to that ball tournament or that soccer game or that action festival.
Counselor Patton?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I agree. I think we should look at 55,000 for this year, and hopefully David can find $5,000. And if we do that, then I'd like to see us put the Boys and Girls Club and Recoup back up another 150, just to make an even $55,000.
We can cut the ornamental gardens by a little bit. Go back and recoup.
Can I also mention that in the past, it's been a practice occasionally to save a little bit of this grant and aid money so that when unforeseen requests come up during the year, it's possible to allocate to them. I'm not saying add more, I'm just saying that, you know, as you stick to this number, remember there's still a need that's going to emerge from the community, and it's just tough to satisfy all the asks.
It always does.
Yeah.
Counselor Holmes?
Yeah, I remember one year we didn't do that, and it actually probably made our lives a little bit easier because the answer was no.
Following up on what Councillor Van Elfen just proposed, if we were to take, but Councillor Patton also proposed, if we were to take 1,000 from the Friends of the Ornamental Gardens and put, what, 650 each on Recoat and the Okanagan Boys and Girls Club, that would, we would be at 55 even, right? Yeah. What does council think about
I don't like
having,
that.
you don't like that?
No,
I don't either.
Okay.
I don't.
So do you have a, do you want it to go back to what it was?
Yeah.
Or
I do.
that's what you would like, Councillor Carlson?
Would be my personal preference. Or to take 500, but not to take a whole 1,000.
Okay.
So what about 500 from Ornamental Gardens and 500 from Fall Fair? Do it that way,
Be another way to do it.
and put it, 500 on Recope and 500 on Boys and Girls Club.
Councillor Trainer?
I think to take $1,000 from the Friends of the Gardens is not on. I think we've been giving them 8,000
So,
for several.
so, what do you think of this other suggestion that Councillor Carlson has brought up?
Councillor Van Elfen had 7,500 at the Ornamental Gardens and 6,500 for the Fall Fair.
Yeah.
Sorry, I guess
Okay.
in my,
Mhm.
no, just in my processing of it, I feel like something like Recope as well as Boys and Girls Club, because of their current location facilities, those things are already subsidized by the taxpayers of Summerland. And so I just feel like we should be, you know, fair to things like the gardens and the fall fair, who don't get any other subsidy necessarily from the district. I mean, we're talking about if Recope pays $7,000 a year for the aquatic center, what does it cost to run all of that facility during the time that it's being used? Probably a lot more than that. I don't know if it's double. I don't know how much it costs, but I do know that, you know, that it's not a wash, but it's certainly not a lot. And so we do just need to, I think, consider those facilities. The same, there's a permissive tax exemption on Harold Simpson. We own the, right? There's different, I'm not sure if I'm making any sense, but I think it's fair to remember that that's not the only benefit that Recope gets, for example, and not the only benefit that the Boys and Girls Club would get, being a permissive tax exemption as well, or a subsidized rate in the facility. So just, that's part of my processing of it, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's one number is better than the other.
But
it's just part of how I'm thinking it through.
We heard from Jennifer when she presented that the Harold Simpson is no longer adequate for.
Oh, I
so
understand.
yeah. So that makes a difference.
And they're not, wouldn't be using the current Sadie or the
No.
Summerland building.
No.
The Boys and Girls Club is conditionally looking at working with the Recreation Drop-In Center.
Great.
So it could provide some pretty interesting opportunities for intergeneral, I can't say it,
Generational?
thank you.
Anyways, I'm gonna go shortly.
Okay, so. Okay, two questions. Are we satisfied with the distribution as it sits now?
Looks good to me.
Yes, yes?
No.
No, Councillor Patton?
I think taking the fall fair from 9,500 down to 6,500, that's a dramatic decrease. And they've done such great work, especially for the last couple of years. I know this sounds bad, but why don't we do 4,400 for Recope and 4,400 for the Boys and Girls Club, and put the fall fair back up to $7,000?
Thoughts? Councillor Holmes?
Yeah, I mean, this thing I struggle with is that when you look at things like the Food Bank, Agri Lake Society, Recope, Boys and Girls Club, is that they're not really local government responsibilities, you know, and that's, you know, but I understand that they're important to the community, and if we don't support them, nobody else will. But really, the purpose of these things is to support, you know, cultural organization, events, you know, sporting groups, that sort of thing. So, you know, you're juggling all these things, and it's really difficult and kind of really unfair, because you're talking, it's such small amounts in the grand scheme of things. But yeah, I kind of agree with what Councillor Patton is saying.
Councillor Van Alphen?
No, I can agree with Councillor Patton's philosophy, but they're all great. They're all a real asset to our community, and I'd like to recommend we leave it the way it sits and have a vote and go from there.
Councillor Barkle?
So the way it sits is the 55,000 total, and we've got to find $5,000 somewhere from some other budget item that we're going to cut?
Oh, yes.
okay, just so I'm clear. I would support Councillor Patton's suggestion, sort of along the lines of what Councillor Holmes said. You know, I really want to see, as much as we can, supporting the things that are uniquely Summerland here, which is the Fall Fair, the Action Festival, the Ornamental Gardens, because it's really part of Summerland. Not the sort of things that have been downloaded onto us from higher levels of government. So I would...
So you would go for 7,000 for the Fall Fair
Mhm.
and 400 each for Recope and Okanagan Boys and Girls Club,
Yes,
as Councillor Patton suggested.
yes.
I would look at that as well. Okay, David. Yes,
Boys and
please.
Girls Club.
Councillor Van Alphen.
But just to continue
44.
Councillor Barkwell's train of thinking, I mean, a lot of people that use Recope and the Boys and Girls Club are uniquely Summerlanders too.
Okay, council. We're at 55, distributed as the way you see it there. We have a few motions to make. You have and what about the other things?
I think we do.
Okay, and then,
So we need to increase the amount and then
Okay.
distribute it.
do you want to read that?
Sure,
then?
sure.
Okay, council, these are the resolutions that our corporate officer has drafted.
So to start with the grant and aid funding, I'm suggesting that council pass a motion first to increase the 2020 grant and aid funding in the amount of $5,000. That's the first motion. And then the second one is that the 2020 grant and aid funding of $55,000 be distributed to applicants as follows, and that would be the list that you see on the screen.
Okay. Councillor Holmes, you're making that motion? And seconder, Councillor Patton? Any further discussion? It doesn't allow for any other grants and aid to be handed out over the year. Okay, Councillor Barkwell?
I'm okay with that.
So, all in favor? Okay,
So then one more.
and now there's the second resolution.
And then the final one is that staff be directed to bring a report back to council at a future regular meeting on the Summerland Action Festival Association organization and financials for further discussion.
Councillor Holmes, Councillor Patton, more discussion on this? All in favor? Great. Councillor. David,
Madam Mayor, could staff get some clarification as to how you would like us to find that additional $5,000? Would you like us to find it through general operations, or does council consider potentially lowering the amount that's being transferred into the asset management reserve by that $5,000? Just some direction so that we can try to find it.
Councillor Traynor?
I have a question about, do we have an economic development fund?
Yes,
And
so,
that hasn't been allocated.
no, so we've got
Completely yet.
$30,000 in the Economic Development Fund budgeted for this year.
Because some of these items on here contribute to economic development in Summerland, like the events.
So potentially, there are projects that could add up to approximately $20,000 out of that 30, which would leave 10. Historically, that's been at, I think, $50,000. That was reduced with specific allocation to the business survey process we're going through. There's another one of the other projects we're going through as well, the housing forum. and which left at 30. So there could be...
So there is a little bit of flexibility in there?
Potentially, yes.
Just
Yeah.
instead of having to pull it from somewhere else, if that money hasn't been allocated yet, you could possibly take it from there?
Correct.
I like that suggestion. Good suggestion.
Councillor Barclay?
I like that suggestion as well. Should we put that in the form of a motion? I'll move so, that $5,000 be reallocated from the Economic Development Fund to the Grant and Aid Fund.
I'll second that.
All those in favor? Yay. Okay. Okay, on to 8.2, road naming policy revision. Thanks for going through the pain with us. Is this for you?
No, this is for Angelique.
Angelique.
Sorry, Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I'm going to excuse myself for the evening.
Thank you for joining us.
Much fun as this has been,
You're here for
Thank
some
you.
really important
Yeah,
bits today
I'm glad we
and
got that one done.
earlier today as well, so that's great.
See you next time.
Yes. Thank you. Angelique, I guess this is yours.
Which one? Quiet.
Save that. Thank you, Mayor and Council. The next report focuses on a number of different road naming requests which have been brought to staff and letters to council over the last couple of years. So background for you, the traditional committee or group which oversaw questions around road naming was the Heritage Commission, which was run through the Development Services Department and which has been in abeyance for a little while now. We have therefore got a bit of a backlog of requests, and so we're choosing to bring them all to you at once. So we've tried to split it out and make the recommendations sort of easy. So we've received, and they're listed in this order of the order the requests have been received. In 2018, April 18th, we received a request to name the Veterans Way request, which is a request, I'll show you a map in a moment. 2019, February 1st, the request came from the Beer family. In 2019, September, the request came forward for naming the road, the same road as the Veterans Way request, after George Riga. And most recently, in November of 2019, the Pierre family of the Penticton Indian Band requested that we name a roundabout. So I've just got a map here showing the scope of the requests and giving you a sense of what the implications could be were council to consider all requests. So the big area in red up at the top circles Jubilee. Initially, and for you to know, our process is that a name request may come forward, and the first step is for the road policy, the road naming policy to be revised to include that name, if it's deemed one which has heritage value to the District of Summerland. So the top circle is circling an area of Jubilee, which has been since 1996 a continuous request from the Beer family to change its name to be named after the Beer family. There has been ongoing correspondence with the family, including meetings, to the point where the family now understands that the name, the Beer name it has been added to the road policy, the road naming policy, but it will not likely be, a street will not be changed name to be named the Beer family name, but a new road could be named after the Beer family, if that makes sense to you. The Veterans Way request and the George Riga request are both for the same small spur of Kelly Avenue, highlighted in green and in blue. And the purple circle at the sort of middle of the diagram is the roundabout that the Pierre family would like named after their family. So just speaking to policy and kind of what the requests reflect, the Veterans Way request included this image in Penticton to illustrate the kind of naming they would like. And I'd just like to say, looking back at this map, it's quite clear that the Veterans Way request is specific to that location because of the cenotaph at the park. And this kind of sign wouldn't make a lot of sense at some new street somewhere else in the district. So remember that context matters in some of these particular requests. This is a picture of the Beer family home and their area of residence on Jubilee. This circle shows you where George Riga's home was, which is on Caldwell Street, and our road naming policy typically reflects people's name, their family name, going on an area close to where they lived in Summerland. It's not to say that can't be changed. The map here shows the Pierre family, which do in the district of Summerland have a Pierre Drive. It's close to the industrial area, James Lake kind of industrial area. And their request is for the roundabout here, which you can see is the roundabout by the museum and the Arts and Cultural Center. And if you look at this map, which shows where the IR, which was the Pierre family's home, this corner essentially would be the southern westernmost corner of their property. So if we were going by our policy, Pierre Drive would not be here. George Riga's street would be here. The Beer family name would likely be applied somewhere, but a new development. And the rationale for that is that renaming a street once it's already named costs a lot of money, both to the individual residents for their identification and their registration for almost everything they have. So there's a lot of unintended consequences that spiral out of a name change. So for you to consider these name changes in context, you essentially have two requests for the same spur, which is that piece of Kelly Avenue that is a little bit discontiguous from the rest of Kelly. So there's a competition for that name or that piece of street. You have the Beer name request, which has been satisfied as far as our policy goes. The Beer name has been added to our policy, and it's a matter of time before a street is built that is suitable. And so staff are recommending that more contact is had with the Beer family so they understand our process because they advocate regularly. And then the Pierre request, we don't have a policy to name roundabouts, although as noted in the report, staff have revised the road policy to include the potential for naming roundabouts if council should choose. Comments from both the development services and the emergency services world is that changing names to streets can cause challenges because people are not prepared for the new name. For example, if that spur of Kelly gets renamed, it's always been Kelly, so it becomes a problem when the police and the fire are looking for that particular address. The developer has already applied for all of the addresses, and they are all on Kelly. So any change will now have consequence financially for both the developer. Well, residents are not there yet, so it will be a cost borne by the developer. And there's no suggestion by staff that any of these potential name changes should be borne by the district.
I just have a quick question regarding the staff recommendation and the report that you just gave us. are we being asked tonight simply to make these amendments, or are we being asked to say yay or nay to where these streets might be?
So the first step to get these names all on the record was to revise the road policy.
Right.
Road naming policy.
Mhm.
So staff have revised the policy, which council can approve. So that means staff have added Veterans Way, they have added Riga, and added a provision to name roundabouts, and added the name Pierre to
Okay,
that
so,
list.
so I understand that, but what are we being asked to provide direction on tonight?
It would be helpful if council weighed in on whether they want to change the name of Kelly to either Veterans Way or Riga, because there are two outstanding requests for that. It is not recommended to change the existing street name because there are already activities that have spiraled out of the development, but it's your decision. And the question as to the Pierre request for the roundabout name, that's a new thing. So staff have added it to the policy, but again, that's for you to debate.
Okay, I wasn't sure what it was being asked of us, so that clarifies it. Okay, oh my goodness. Councillor Traynor, Patton, Barkwell, Van Elfen, and you, Councillor Holmes? Okay, so starting with you, Councillor Traynor.
So first of all, the roundabout, I am in support of that, for sure. I like that. I was wondering, so for Kelly, I think that Veterans Way makes sense. A, because that request came in first, and B, because it's right next to the cenotaph. So to me, that makes total sense. There is a cost to that. So can you have an unofficial name to a street? Like, if it is Kelly, can we still call it Veterans Way as well, or is that totally not on?
It's not our policy.
Okay. Okay, so that answers that question. And then my last question was, John Dorn had mentioned that streets are typically named after people on the cenotaph, but in our policy, it doesn't look like it says that.
So they were, in 2002, all the names on the veterans, all the names on the cenotaph were added to this list.
Okay.
So they're in the list.
They are now, okay.
They are, yeah. So they are considered, but there are also other names that were on the lists before that. So there
Also pioneers and settlers, names reflecting physical features of the area, that is included as well. Okay. Thanks.
Councillor Patton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm in agreement. I think we should change it to Veterans Way. We have one building right now, being the project, which is one address with unit numbers. So we're not putting the developer at any major discomfort by changing an address, which would be whatever Veterans Way, and it'll be units number 1, 2, whatever the case may be.
There will be a cost, but looking at what it's cost them to date to file, it will be probably $5,000 to $10,000 in costs.
I do addressing for the city of Kelowna, so I need to respectfully, I think your numbers are a little bit out, but if you could take a look at it, because I don't think that the cost is all that relevant since the building's not occupied yet.
While you're looking that up, Angelique, Councillor Barkwell?
I don't know whether I should be happy or unhappy, because this was brought up at council at least twice before to change Veterans, Kelly Avenue Veterans Way, specifically saying we should do this before that project is built. So now it's before council again, and the project's built. Although, I also remember being involved in the original proposal, with the Heritage Commission, or Committee, and
they had looked into the difficulties of changing the name of a street, and the information we got back was it was no problem at all. They looked into the post office, the 911 people and everything like that, and afraid at the time that maybe the request would be rather onerous, and the result and the answer and the information we got at that time that it was no big deal, particularly no big deal when before Wharton Street was finished. So I'm unhappy that it's taken this long. I'd actually given up on the whole idea, although promises had been made. There isn't a staff member here that was here at that time, so so many things have changed. But so I would say let's do it. We know that the Legion was a big proponent of this. We made certain promises to them at the time, and I just glad that they haven't been bugging me in the interim years. So, and I don't see, is there, maybe this is a question, there's no, even though there's a Pierre Street, there's no issues with having a Pierre roundabout, is there?
I asked Glenn Noble if they'd have problems with it, and he didn't think so.
There's nobody lives on the roundabout?
No. And, one of the things I did speak with Ines Pierre about was the possibility of having the signage perhaps also include some of the Insultion language, which would perhaps differentiate it from a street sign. So it may be possible to do something with the signage there that makes it so that you wouldn't have emergency services making a mistake, because it would perhaps describe like what that place is as a possibility.
If I could just follow up.
Yes.
That would be a great possibility if possible. It's not universally accepted, my understanding from other discussions on signs. I hope you find that they can do that. A lot of federal government signs will have, the English letters but native spelling or whatever, and the other people say, well, there's no agreement on how it's supposed to be spelled, so you just offend somebody, so don't put it on at all. I don't know where we'd end up, but it's worth looking into.
Yeah, it's different jurisdictions have different methods, and in some cases, it's through working really closely with the local Indigenous group to establish what those are. For sure, the spelling piece and the language translation is a challenge.
If we got their agreement on it, then I'd say sail away.
Just to speak to the costs, so the email that I have from December of 2019 from Carly Brenner, who's the site administrator, targets the cost for ordering custom signage for the building in the price range of $1,500. And then it would be operational costs working with the various registrations. So they need to work with BC Ambulance Services, Terrace and Gas, TELUS, BC Assessment Authority, Municipal Utilities, Engineering and Public Works, ours, Summerland Fire Department, Bylaw Services, and Canada Post. That's the groups that are entailed in the address change. So I submit to you that it's likely I was a little high with 10,000, but maybe close to 5.
Okay, Councillor Van Elfen?
I like the idea of the Veterans Way. So who's going to absorb the costs?
Well, it's not suggested the District of Summerland absorbs them, so we're basically asking the developer to do so.
Okay, and the developer, if he chooses to do so, then I would agree with that. The pier roundabout, I don't have a problem with it, but I know we're thinking of something in the future around our arts and cultural center, museum grounds for, a landscape upgrade or a bit of a park in that area. And that could be somewhere, it's the same area. That could be something that we could name possibly the park after the Pierre family or something like that. But like if we name this roundabout Pierre Roundabout, then what's one on Rosedale got to be called, and what's the one up on Prairie Valley got to be called?
Van Elfen?
Oh, we don't need to talk about that tonight.
an answer to that. So I mean, it's just, they're roundabouts. They're not streets, they're not boulevards, they're a circle. I think there's other opportunities in town to use the Pierre family name in a bigger context, like in a park or something.
If you were to choose to name the park, the one advantage would be, it would certainly allow for interpretive signage and a greater, more fulsome story than just the name.
If I can continue on, it's a great opportunity too. If we looked at a park there, we could definitely, at the arts and culture, include some indigenous art, in the parks.
Councillor Holmes?
Thanks. So, first of all, Veterans Way, so surely Way is a suffix, isn't it? We're not going to, it's not going to be Veterans Way Street or Veterans Way Avenue.
Oh, did I put Veterans Way Street?
No, but but we're adding Veterans Way to the name list, where Way to me would be the suffix.
You know, I thought about that as I was adding it, but it just didn't seem right to leave it as veterans, because it was so clear that it was, to me, that particular request is very specifically about that particular place, which is only because it's trying to say, we're going to get you towards this cenotaph. So it struck me that the request was not a Veterans Avenue or a Veterans Street, but very specifically that location and that suffix. So I see what you're saying, but that was why I put it.
So my question is, are we recommending, so we don't have a way, there's no way in our street name suffix, right? So are you recommending that we add way to the street name suffixes? And if so, if there's very clear definition of what an avenue is, what a street is, what a place, court, and everything is, and do we have a definition of what a way is?
We don't, and frankly, it would be, to me, a lot more additional work when this is a very specific request that I think you'll either deny or accept. I mean, it's, to me, if you add this to the list and you don't name that street, that one, it would be incorrect to name any other street that name. It doesn't make sense.
Why?
Because Veterans Way, as what way indicates, is we're leading you towards the place, which is the cenotaph. I mean, I'm reading into the intent behind that request, but that was what I believed the request was about.
Yeah.
I don't think they would be happy if you chose, they already have every name on the cenotaph added to our street naming list. So the reason for Veterans Way is because of the memorial place where it is parked. If you had a subdivision up somewhere else, it would not be an appropriate thing to name it Veterans Way. It's the direction that people go from the Legion and they gather at the cenotaph, so it's specific to that particular location.
So
they don't really want Veterans Way added to any list, they want it added to the list for that particular application.
Okay, so, I don't question the Heritage Commission's intentions and all, but this is against our street naming policy in so many different ways. It's even against what the suffix we are approved in the bylaw. It is against the policy that we name either after local people or local places, which has probably been a policy for like 100 years or something like that. My preference is basically what John Dorn said, that we have our own way of honoring our vets and those who are fallen. Those are names from the cenotaph, and to me, those are real people with real names, with real connections to the community. The whole use of the word veterans is an Americanism that's crept into Canadian lexicon, if you will. Canada, we've traditionally used the term memorial. So the United States, you have Veterans Stadium. We have here memorial arenas. Canada, on November 11th, we have Remembrance Day. In the United States, they have Veterans Day. And those are very, it's a very, I don't want to give a social sciences lessons here, but there's reasons for that. There's cultural differences between the two countries, and we remember our fallen, whereas the United States they don't want to think about people who were killed in wars, but it's a different way of thinking, and, and the way I illustrated, I think the most is, in the United States, they have Veterans Day sales in the stores, and last year I saw one of the big box stores in Penticton, they had a Remembrance Day sale, and I don't know, that just, to me, was really disrespectful, it just really, it's just not right. And I just feel that's what's creeping in here. And this is the one thing that really has a problem with me, that it's not our way of remembering and honoring people who served our country. So these are the things I have issues with, and on top of that, it just throws a complete wrench into our policy. So why do we even have a street naming policy?
Is that your question? Why do we have a street naming policy?
It's a good question.
Yeah.
And one other thing is, I'd really like to know what the developer thinks too, because we don't know how much work they've put in to marketing or whatever, and yeah, we should have dealt with this much earlier, but we didn't, so.
Angelique, can I ask a question about which group it is that brought forward the name Veterans Way? I've heard that it came out of the Heritage Committee, but did it originate with the Legion?
There have been letters over time, and our files go back some time, but one name that recurs is George Downton, who I understand was both on the Heritage Commission, and I think he's also part of the, I don't know if he's part of the Legion? I feel like he is. Are you George Downton? Well, that's him over there. I've got...
There is a lot of history on it. There's a lot of paperwork.
Yeah. I mean, because this usually goes through development services, and there's been quite a lot of transition,
Yeah.
this has sort of landed on my desk to try and make sense of. But I will tell you from what I know, the Veterans Way request.
Councillor Barkwell.
When she's done.
Okay.
I think the first iteration of the request, I think, was as early as, let's see.
November 16th, 2016.
That's what I thought. I was going to say 2016. I only have here attached to the report the 2018 conversation with Alex Condor, but I was going to say I think this goes back to 2016. Yeah.
I can give you
Well, there we go.
But the whole idea of this was, if that area can't be called Veterans Way, we don't want Veterans Way anywhere else. It's the only place it fits. It's the only thing that makes any sense. Otherwise, we wouldn't have even brought this forward in the first place.
That's what I said.
And jump over something also about the Pierre roundabout. That goes back to 2013 roundabouts. I have the minutes here from all the meetings, and the suggestions were for the 3 roundabouts and with names for them all. And we put them in the last 2 Summerland papers, and we were bringing that forward, but somebody miscommunicated, and the letter never got to mayor and council. But the original, before the Pierre family we even knew about the Pierre letter, we already had it on a list to name that roundabout, to name the McDonald roundabout, and the one up on top is going to be the dark roundabout. And because there's no physical street address, and because probably all it's going to be is a sign on that roundabout or a plaque, then we didn't feel there was any big deal.
The basic cost for a blade-style sign is about $150, just as a FYI. The cost for one of the more traditional, like what the Ministry of Highways uses for their tourism signs, the blue with white text, sort of more oblong, I think they're both also under 200.
Okay, Councillor Barkwell?
I found Councillor Holmes' lessons interesting. I'm wondering it might be more appropriate to name it Memorial Way. I still think that we should rename it in something of I know the Legion has been behind this for a long time, and they sort of wonder, what's wrong with you guys? Why can't you get this done? As far as it being an exception, we don't have way as a suffix, I'd say it's an exception. We can live with some exceptions, and we'll just have that word, Veterans Way, Memorial Way, whatever we choose, in the list as an exception, not conforming to any sort of computer program lines of reasoning. I can live with that one.
Okay, so we have three three separate resolutions there, I guess. Are we ready to get them on the table, one by one? I know that we've had a fair bit of discussion already, but...
This is just a question for council to consider in adopting these proposed recommendations, is if there is an appetite to change the suggestion of Veterans Way to Memorial Way, while it's not currently a part of this proposal, it can be, you would get alignment between your Memorial Park and your Memorial Way if you named them both. They would both have the same name, which would create a bit of consonance in terms of your curation of your town.
Councillor Barkwell, would you like to bring forward that first one, substituting Memorial Way in, or?
Can we have some discussion on that suggestion? Is Veterans Way...
I would suggest that before we have any further discussion, that we get it on the table.
All right.
Yes.
I will move that the name Memorial Way be added to policy 300.1, street naming policy, and that the name George Riga be added to policy 300.1, street naming policy. And further, that staff be directed to correspond further with the Legion and Riga Festival organizations, presumably about naming.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you. Do we have a...
Can I just ask a question?
Let's get a seconder first. Councillor Holmes? Okay, Councillor Traynor.
The name Veterans Way, so again, that request came from the Heritage Commission. It came out of there. Is that...
The letters that are on file list the Okanagan Heritage Society, but as Mr. Danton is in the audience, he can probably answer more clearly.
Yeah. 75% of the members of our group were on the original Heritage Advisory Commission and the advising council since Richard knows way back. But now that in 2018 the Heritage Advisory Committee was disbanded by council or by the CAO at the time, and at that time the CAO, even before she left, Linda supported this as a Veterans Way thing. And then she gave it to Alex, and Alex was supposed to take it to staff, and that's where it's sat. So that's why you haven't heard much about it lately, because it's buried under paperwork, and that's what happens with a lot of things, right? But as far as our job now, as we're a volunteer group and we're hoping to advise council. We don't have any staff. We previously worked with staff, but now we send in paperwork to you guys, and take it or leave it, but at least we're trying to give you some direction as to how we see the community want to go.
I just have
okay.
that answered that. Did the Legion give their thoughts on this at all?
We didn't check in. We just itemized the order of these requests because they do go back. I mean, the Veterans Way request, as I note there, I have letters showing it going back as far as 2018, but while researching, I did come across a 2016 request as well.
I just needed those answers because I don't want to support something that is actually not supported by the Legion. And when John Dorn was speaking, I believe he said that he supported our current policy, which just refers to individuals. If I'm correct, that's what he said.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if he was speaking on behalf of the Legion or just on behalf of himself, but, so I don't know if the Legion would actually be in favor of this name or not. That's my concern.
And I think the point that John Dorn was making was also that he felt that the road naming policy was becoming diluted by including more names. He felt like it should be ended with the names from the cenotaph being it. And I don't know if he understands that there's already an existing list which includes orchardists and early settlers.
I have a question. If this hasn't really come directly from the Legion, why would we be corresponding further with the Legion and not corresponding further with the Okanagan Historical Society?
That is a fine question. I think because I read the example image, I saw poppies and I thought Legion. But you're right, yes. It's the Okanagan Historical Society to correspond with.
So then maybe we could, Councillor Barkwell.
You know, I could put money on the fact that the Legion, was behind this suggestion, but I don't have any paper to prove it. I'd have to search.
So I'm not making it up.
And so perhaps we could just leave it that we add it to the list and then staff sort of follow up and confirm that everybody thinks that's, because I'm adding memorial, and that's not what they requested. Or we are, or and so there's got to be some dialogue about that. So,
Councillor sorry, were you first?
No.
Councillor Van Elfen and then Holmes.
So should we be putting a recommendation on the table to table this until further conversation can be had with the Legion so we can get our ducks in a row and get the right decision? Because if we say memorial and they said, no, we wanted veterans and we don't, let's maybe table this and have staff come back with another report and, have a conversation with the Legion and maybe get some clarity on what Mr. Dorn was saying tonight, that they were under the impression that we were going to use the names off the cenotaph first for names. I don't know. So I'm just asking, could we possibly table this for another discussion at another day or evening?
This part of the resolution, this first part.
well, you have to.
Seconder? Oh, sorry, you're seconding, but you also wanted to comment?
Sure.
Yes, thanks.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I also agree, I'd also suggest that we also communicate with the developer and get their feedback, because I think we need to know what they think. If it was a year ago, or 2 years ago, wouldn't have been an issue, but I think today, I just, out of respect more than anything, and especially if it's going to hit their pocketbook.
So the motion then is to defer this.
Please.
All in favor? Thank you. Councillor Holmes.
So we're deferring the Riga one as well?
All of them.
Yeah, all of them? Yeah. Okay, could I just say one thing about, or is it too late because it's deferred?
Yes.
I think if council wanted to have a discussion about information that you might need in order to put that back on the table, that would be okay.
Okay.
At a different time, at a future meeting.
Okay, I'm just wondering, so by deferring that, we also are deferring whether or not to add the name George Riga to the street naming policy?
Correct.
Which is fine. I'll bring it up next time when it comes back.
Okay,
Yeah, that's fine.
okay. So on to the next one there. Staff be directed to further amend the street name policy to include provision for naming roundabouts and investigate other possibilities to include the Pierre family.
I'm just unclear on that one. So does that mean, and direct staff to investigate other possibilities? So does that mean you're recommending that we don't name the roundabout?
Because I already had the information that it might be considered a negative thing that we already had a Pierre Drive, and that council may then not consider naming the roundabout, but knowing that council has the intention to build its Indigenous relationship, I thought I would hedge my bets so that at the very least, an Insultion word could be identified. It's not necessary. It's possible. But my sense was that if you said no, because of emergency services or because we already have a Pierre Drive, then you might want to consider, as Councillor Van Alphen identified, other locations, like the park right there, or other names that include the Pierre name, but perhaps include more.
Councillor Van Alphen and then Holmes.
I'd like to table all three of them for an opportunity to have further discussion on this whole street naming policy situation. I think there's a lot of conversations that need to be had, and I don't think we would be able to fit it all in tonight, personally.
Seconder? Councillor Holmes? Councillor Barkwell?
Yeah, I'm not even sure why we need number 3. You know, if there's a street named Beer Street and that's what the Beer family wants, that's the end of the discussion. Why is it on do we need a motion to that effect?
The Beer family continues to correspond with staff at the district, maybe because they realize that sometimes staff changeover occurs. They may not know that their name has been added to the road policy list, or they may realize that the more they advocate, the more likely there is a street will be named after them. But their continued correspondence does cause challenges because it comes up and the new staff person dealing with the event may not realize they're in the policy, they're covered.
So it's just a matter of letting them
It's just a matter of letting them know, you guys are on the list. That's all we can do for you. And when an appropriate street is being built that is in the area that your forebears lived, we'll consider naming it Beer, as will the rest of the list be considered. It's just a matter of explaining to them our process, because as I look through our files, they spend a lot of our staff time because either staff don't know they're on the list or they don't know they're on the list.
Councillor Barkwell?
Just another question, if I could. So we're going to move to defer this, and we've moved to defer the first one. And that leaves the understanding that staff are going to come, it's like, not the end of it, but should we have maybe included in the motion, add staff report back to council, or that's just understood?
Yep. I think that'd be appreciated if you added that to the motion. I think we definitely need to get a handle on the policy. Is council happy with the policy, or is there direction? Once we have that reconfirmed, then we'll be in a position to bring back confident recommendations so that council are able to give us good direction.
Okay. So we'll just wait on all three of them? That's what we're suggesting? Okay. Councillor Patton?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Oh, we're deferred it, haven't we?
Well, we have to vote, that's the last
Okay.
thing to do.
I'm just looking at a letter here that Dawn Booth sent in regards to addressing, and it's one address. And she says here that for marketing, 911, and servicing purposes, after construction is completed, we will commence using whatever unit number at 12809 Kelly Avenue. So she's already told the developer here, and she's also told Fortis, TELUS, BC Assessment, Municipal. So it is at occupancy, so we can still, it's not going to be, but anyways.
So let's have a vote. All in favor? Okay, we need to have a vote, because we're 8 minutes over time, on whether or not we're going to continue on with this council meeting tonight. No, because we start an hour earlier. Councillor Holmes, what's your motion?
Yeah, that we extend.
Okay, seconder? All in favor? Opposed? I'm opposed.
For a couple hours. Excuse myself for a moment.
Yes, let's have a break.
Nice to meet you.
I would like to take 8.4 off the agenda. That doesn't have to be done tonight.